Your Fighting Illini take care of business 38-0 drubbing of the Western Michigan Broncos. Western Michigan Broncos. And that sets up a big showdown against Indiana next Saturday. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to the post-game, yet another celebratory, good mood post-game edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. And in this case, probably not your first listen, probably the one you listen to right before you go to bed. My name is Sunny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to do this every single day. You'll get a daily show and you get post-game shows. After every football game, after every men's basketball game, if you want Illini content, I'm your guy. I'll do it right here on this channel. So make sure you hit the like button on this video because, guys, guess what? The Fighting Illini are 3-0 for the second straight year. They're going undefeated in their non-conference schedule, and maybe some of you expected this. I know, there was some nervousness about that Duke game, but those of you who've been watching football for a while know that being 3-0 in that non-conference schedule is not something that we're going to take for granted, ever. And again, it's not like that we're playing one of those cakewalk schedules that Indiana and some of the other teams have been playing. Not that Western Michigan looks like they're all that good, but you know what? They put up a good fight against Michigan State. Michigan State beat this team 23-6. They beat by North Texas, but North Texas just rolled over Washington State today. So Western Michigan might be better than we're giving them credit for. And I think we'll kind of see how they fare out in the MAC. They're 0-3 right now, but they've also played some 3 solid teams. Michigan State, again, a Big Ten team. No one expects them to win that game. Northern Texas, as I said, rolled today. And this Illinois team continues to roll. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Definitely let me know in the comment section. I'm going to get to your guys' thoughts in the second half. I just wanted to, just kind of give my thoughts on this game. We know what this team is now, and I talked about it in the Talk Illini Discord. Link should be in the description. It's a top 5 team in the country if you just watch these second halves. It's a fringe top 25 team when you're watching the first halves. It's frustrating. This team was up, I believe, 14-0 going at halftime. And even that was just because of a fortunate break in that Western Michigan had the ball at the 1-yard line, 2 plays, they couldn't get it in. And you know what? Props to the defense. They stood tall. Props to the defense the entire game. 0 points allowed against Western Michigan. It's MAC school, right? This is not an FCS team where you're expected to win 73-0 or whatnot. They won 38-0, gave up 0 points against a Western Michigan team that put up a fight against other squads. But regardless, a quick game recap in the first half. Struggles again. The offensive line issue is just something that we're going to all have to sit down and really have an honest discussion on. Because I talked about in my keys to the game, I wanted to finally see that offensive line just gel and impose their will on a smaller defensive line from the MAC. And in that first half, that was not the case. Yet again, the running game struggled. Luke Altmaier struggled with a couple sacks. Once again, a couple of them were his fault. But it's one of those situations where I think I saw some of you guys in the comment section saying the same thing. It's fine if you're a second half team and you ultimately win the games. But if you try to struggle in the first half, if you start slow against Indiana next Saturday, it's 28-3 at halftime. And I don't care how good of a second half team you are. You're not going to catch up to Indiana if all of a sudden you're down 28-3. This coaching staff, the last 2 games, have made some brilliant halftime adjustments. Whatever they're doing at halftime is working. What was the stat? I believe I saw it was like 59-6 is the difference in the last 2 games in the second half. Whatever pep talks, whatever game plans that they're busting out at the halftime talk, it is 100% working. But it's not going to work next week. And it's not going to work the week after that. You can't let the really good teams get out that far ahead. And it's one of those where I don't know what it is. Like, clearly, Illinois knows that Indiana's watching today. And I'm going to do a second watch of this right after I'm done with this post game, as I always do. That way I can just take my fan cap off and, not give my emotional takes, but just look at it as an analyst. But clearly, they know Indiana played last night. They're probably all together right now in their locker room watching and scouting this Illinois team. And you can tell Brett Bielema didn't want to show him much, especially in that first half. Every pass play, every rush play was very vanilla. I don't know if they ran more than 12 or 13 different actual routes and plays in that first half. Everything was very similar. It was the game plan simply seemed to be, hey, we're a lot more talented than the other team, so we should be winning, and let's just win that way. And granted, it was 14-0. But let's be honest, it didn't feel like 14-0. It felt a lot closer than it should be. If you're one of those who are watching the game and you're making comments on social media, or you're scrolling through social media, or if you're in our Discord, the mood, if you didn't know what the score was and you were just reading what everybody was saying about the game, you'd be like, oh boy, Illinois they're in a fight right now. They must be down 14-0. It must be a 14-10 game. But really, now that the game is over and we can kind of relax and step back, the game itself was never really in doubt. I think the nerves and the nervous energy is mainly because we know what is happening next week and the week after that and the week after that. We know that the way we've played, in particular in the first half, I don't think anyone can complain about what's going on in the second half of these games. Again, Illinois legit looks like a top 5 team in the second half of seemingly every game this season. But that first half, that's what we think about, we sit on, and that's what we get nervous about. I'm not going to let the bad vibes overtake me today, because I'll be honest, I watched a lot of college football today. And there's a lot of teams in the top 25 that had games where the games were a lot closer than they should have been. You know, Ohio State was only up 10 at halftime against Ohio, another MAC team. Now, granted, Ohio's, I believe, slated to win the MAC, so it's slightly different. But still, Ohio State was only up by 10 points against Ohio today. We here at being Illinois fans, I feel like now we're just we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. The way a lot of us were acting, and even now, I'm sure the comment section, which I can't wait to get through. And by the way, 64 people in here. Make sure you hit that like button while you're watching. 3-0, second straight year. We're waiting because we know last year we won 10 games. And you know what? A lot of those games were 50-50. We got breaks on. We're not winning these games necessarily as dominant as Indiana is. Or are we? The first score, the Western Illinois, was 52-3. The game against Duke was what, 45-16? I believe I have that right. And today we won 38-0. We've had 3 more dominating performances than the Indiana Hoosiers have had. But what's sticking in our memory right now is that Friday night, Indiana won 73-0 against, let's be honest, a high school team. It's a team that Illinois' third string would have been able to defeat. And so that, combined with what we remember of last year's Hoosiers team, I think has people nervous today going into next week. I believe the spread was Indiana -3. I'm very curious to see if that moves at all. I mean, people in the Discord were literally saying, watch that go up to -7 by next week. If that spread is -7, you jump on Illinois. I really feel like it's one of those throughout this season. Illinois has taken care of business. It just may not look as smooth as we want it to because it hasn't necessarily been from opening kickoff to the final whistle. We've had series where we've had offensive line issues. But despite that, they've taken care of business all 3 weeks. You know what? Good teams win football games. Great teams cover. And Illinois has covered all 3 weeks of the season so far. Let's talk about some of the individual performances right after this. All right, let's go over some player stats real quick. I think player of the game, I want to know your guys' player of the game in the chat. For me, it's pretty clearly Luke Altmaier, once again. 17 for 26, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he went, when we really needed him in that second half, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. I might as well just play the post-game show from last week against Duke. When Khalil Valentine went down, and Caden Fagan, up until that point, was having just a ho-hum game. The offensive line was struggling. They came out in that second half, and Luke Altmaier just became the Luke Altmaier that, quite honestly, we've just gotten spoiled with. His final box score, again, it doesn't look that great. An Indiana Hoosiers fan who's going to look at this box score and be like, 17 for 26 for 196 and 2 yards? Okay. Our quarterback was, he was accountable for 8 touchdowns the day before. They don't think that's much of a matchup. Illinois fans, we know different. Luke has that, it's not quantifiable, but Illini fans know what I'm saying, that little X factor. When Khalil Valentine went down in that second half, Luke Altmaier all of a sudden completed 11 passes in a row. We scored on 4 of our 5 possessions in that second half to essentially break things open. And again, halfway through that second half, we didn't have a run game. It was all on Luke's arm. That's what a winning quarterback does. And that's why Luke's stats will never look gaudy enough to be considered in the Heisman vote. But I mean this honestly, and you guys let me know, hit the like button if you agree. I don't know if there's a single other quarterback in the Big Ten Conference I would trade Luke Altmaier for. If you watched that Penn State game today, I had it on one of the mini screens. Penn State's offense didn't look all that good. Sure, their final score looks nice, but the Penn State media that I continue to talk to and follow on social media, they were saying it didn't look very good. Drew Aller was lost. Dante Moore's looked great for Oregon. But still, you're talking about a young kid. I say this confidently. Now that I'm reflecting and going through all these rosters, there's not a single other quarterback in the Big Ten Conference I would want as the captain of my team other than Luke. And that includes the guy that we're going to play next Saturday. A guy who I've seen projected to go number 1 in an NFL draft next year or the year after, whenever it is. That's fine. Spot the ball. Let's see what happens. Caden Fagan, 20 carries for 100 yards. And again, I say this, Caden Fagan in the fourth quarter is a cheat code. And maybe it's a little exaggerated because of who he's playing against and the competition. Clearly, those guys don't have the depth. And they get worn down by all game long. And then in the fourth quarter, when they're already tired, here comes a 6'3", 250-pound bowling ball coming at you. Caden is clearly at his best in the fourth quarter. And he's kind of like the closer. And I truly feel like he can do that against some of the tough teams that are coming up on our schedule. That can be a game plan. That can be repeatable. But it can only be repeatable if you put yourself in a situation where you can run the ball in the second half. And that's why I think the concern is, and amongst all of us, now look, you guys know, my everydayers in particular who watch the show since last season, you know that this show, this episode, the Rapid Reaction is 15 to 30 minutes of just pure emotion. Be as positive as you want. be as negative as you want. Nobody's holding your opinions. Like, it's not gospel at this point. You're allowed to change your mind after the emotion wears off. Right now, between Caden and Khalil, I'm trying to think. Aiden Lawfrey did not play today, but from what I'm gathering, it was more precautionary. Again, I go live immediately after the game, so I don't know what Brett Bielema is saying right now. Maybe you guys can let me know in the chat if you guys are watching. But from what I'm guessing is Aiden was precautionary. Dylan Rosiak was precautionary. Daniel Brown didn't play today. He had a minor procedure done. He's unfortunately going to be out. He was out today, and he's going to be out against Indiana. But Brett did say he hopes that he plays against USC. But with that three-headed monster, with Caden Fagan in that fourth quarter, we need to be able to be in a position to hand the ball off and let Luke win the game for us. All right, I want to get to your guys' comments. Let's go over the receivers real quick. No one really jumping out at you today, but honestly, the game was pretty good on the wide receiver side. I know some people were frustrated, and some people in some group chats were saying, the wide receivers are not performing. You guys, they are. I've gone through all 22 of every single game so far, and the wide receivers are creating separation. Today, for the third time, Luke Altmaier missed Colin Dixon for a touchdown. That's 3 touchdowns that Colin Dixon does not have that he should. And yet, that's why I wonder the perception. Like today, Colin had 2 catches for 21. That could have been 3 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown had Luke placed the ball better for Colin. Today was a very solid day in regards to the wide receivers. Hudson Clement had some really nice grabs, and yet he only finished 2 for 31. Hank Beatty, of course, Hank Beatty doing what Hank Beatty does, 6 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. What I'm worried about, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it next week, is clearly anybody who watches Illinois football at this point will know to not let Hank Beatty make plays. And that's going to be, if not the number 1 priority, the second priority for the Hoosiers and their defense next week. Okay, let's take Hank Beatty out. Do they have any of the other young guys who can step up and take the mantle and win the game for him? Ashton Hollins, 2 catches, his first 2 catches of the year, I believe, for 41 yards, and he scored his first touchdown of the season as well. Malik Elzy, 1 catch for 25, but again, you had another longer throw, which I don't know if it was on Luke or Malik, went right through his hands. And normally I would just say maybe it's Luke, but we know Malik kind of has a tendency to drop balls himself too. So I don't know what a more sure-handed wide receiver catch that ball. Eileen, yes. Justin Boak, quiet day, 1 for 13. Caden Fagan, 2 catches for 13 yards, and Cole Rusk, 1 for -1. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 guys caught balls today. 8 guys caught balls. Again, Luke Altmaier, 17 for 26, only 196 yards. But the offense just in the second half did exactly what they needed to do. Barry Lundy Jr. again was in his bag. I see the internet's having a little issue. Let's get to your comments. All right. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like on this particular video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If this is your first time here, guys, I do this every day. Every day I'm on here on Locked On Illini. I've got a new channel too. If some of you guys in the comment section may have saw it, I did my debut episode of Talk Illini alongside the On3 network. Find that on YouTube as well. But I'm here every single day on Locked On, and I will continue to be on here every single day on Locked On. So make sure you hit that like button. Fox says ILLINI. Kellen says handled business, but need to figure out the slow starts on offense. You're exactly right, Kellen. You're not kidding. This is something that we all know. And again, the final score looks nice. 38-0 looks nice. 28-0 in that second half looks really nice. But only up, it was 10-0 Illinois was up. It wasn't 14-0. It was 10-0 at halftime. Indiana is going to score more than 10 points in the first half next week. Indiana might score 24 points in the first half next week. Can Illinois figure out a game plan to keep up with that? We know they can in the second half, but again, if Indiana's already up 3 touchdowns, it doesn't matter. There's no game plan that you're going to make up those touchdowns against the Hoosiers next week. So, Kellen, I'm with you. These slow starts, they're starting to bother me. Sarah says the same thing. Slow start is what makes me nervous against Indiana. William says, anyone else feeling worried about Indiana next week? If the Illini start this poorly again, they're going to be in a deep, deep hole. Now, again, I hope you said this before I started talking, right? So I do hope that I put things into perspective for you. If you saw, Indiana didn't cover the spread the first 2 weeks of the season. They won, and they won pretty handedly, but Illinois has covered the spread all 3 weeks. I think right now, fresh in our memory, is that first half that we just played and the game that Indiana had on Friday night, where they won 73-0. But again, a lot of people in the Discord were watching that game. You're talking about the Sisters of the Poor. We all know Indiana had a very baby schedule, and last night was the team with probably the worst of the 3. So that's why they look fantastic. Quite honestly, I like the fact that we're going to be underdogs. It's -3 in Indiana's favor now. I don't mind it if it jumps up to -4, -5. You know what that does? That puts Brett Bielema in his bag. You don't think he's going to be putting the TV on and say, hey, Illinois is ranked number 9, Indiana's ranked number 17, and yet Indiana is favored over you guys. That goes right into what Brett Bielema does in preparation. That's what we want. I feel much more comfortable winning as an underdog next week than I would as a favorite. Does that make sense? I think you guys would agree with me. Let me know. Sarah says, I'm worried. William also says, Caitlin, nice to see you. This team might just be a second half team again, but they need to show up more on offense in the first half. You cannot expect Big Ten teams to not score while you're figuring things out. Fox the River says, starting slow just to get the in-game Vegas lines to shift. Brett Bielema is making more than his contract betting sports lines. Let's hope not. Mike says, we do need to do better in the first, but we can hold them to a smaller margin like we did with Duke, at least get a touchdown on the board. We should be good. A lot of people are concerned here. Mike Nintendo says, I'll say Indiana has not played tough teams as we did. They played Kennesaw State, Old Dominion, and Indiana State. Indiana State is awful. I'm talking about one of the worst football teams in the country. Old Dominion's pretty good. I'll give them credit for that. I mean, Old Dominion would be better than Western Illinois on our schedule, but I would put Western Michigan and Duke as favored against Old Dominion. So that tells you what I mean about their schedule. They have not been tested at all. And despite not being tested, this isn't the steamrolling of opponents that they did last year. And I think I just want to be very clear of that. Like Illinois, again, I keep repeating myself, but the performances that we've had this year is more dominant than what Indiana has done. Right now, I just think a lot of Illini fans are sticking to the fact that Indiana put up 70 yesterday, and we were only up 10-0 at half. And quite honestly, it didn't feel like we were up 10-0. It felt like it was a 7-7 game, 3-7 game. And I can understand. Mike says, can anyone tell me what happened to the right tackle? Because they said he got hurt. Yeah, again, I don't have any updates right now. Maybe you guys know. Brett Bielema's, I'm curious what Khalil Valentine came back in, which is nice to see. But Xavier Scott, him getting hurt, that makes me nervous. If Xavier Scott's not ready for next week, we could absolutely be in trouble. So hopefully it's just a rolled ankle and it's going to be sore for a couple days. You put some ice on it and he'll be fine by the end of the week. But man, that one definitely had me nervous, especially because it happened at the end of the game when we were up 38-0. He made a heck of a play, just landed on the ankle wrong. But that's football. I got a feeling Indiana showed more than they should have going into the next game. We kept the playbook tight and just out-athleted WMU. Yeah, I mean, that first half, I'm telling you, it's like if you pulled up College Football 2K and you told yourself you can only run 8 plays, that's what that was. It was very vanilla. And I know I'm going to rewatch it again. I'll confirm it for you. We know Indiana Hoosiers are watching. They're not game planning for anybody else. They finished their game last night. They were already scouting us before that because they probably had to spend 5 minutes scouting Indiana State. And then I bet you the whole locker room was gathered around a TV to watch our Fighting Illini. And if I know that, I'm telling you, Brett Bielema absolutely knew that. Also looking at Xavier Scott, he looked like he came down on his foot wrong. I can see him playing. I could also see him not. We'll see. That's something none of us really know. But we're going to need him. I would argue he's probably one of the 3 or 4 most important players that we need next week, because that guy is he's going to go up against a really good quarterback and some really good wide receivers and a really good head coach. We're going to need Xavier Scott because, again, unfortunately, Caleb Patterson really didn't have a great game again today. And I've voiced my concern at this point about this Jaheim Clark situation. I feel like every week we keep being told, oh, it's just next week he'll be fine. Next week he'll be fine. He's now missed the entire non-conference schedule. We didn't even know he was going to miss the first game of the season. It was a surprise to all of us when the availability report came out and he was on it as out. But then we just assumed he'd come back against Duke. That didn't happen. And now, Brett says he's going to come next week, but we don't really know. We have 27 likes and 95 people watching. Come on, guys. That math is not mathing. We need to celebrate 3-0 in the non-conference schedule. Illinois, top. We're the 9th ranked team now. Quite honestly, we could go higher. Off the top of my head, I don't know if the teams ahead of us are losing. I know Notre Dame's playing right now in a shootout, so I don't know how that game's ending, but who knows? We could be a top 8, top 7 team next week. And I will tell you, of the top 15 teams, a lot of people, I can't think of anyone that looked dominant. A lot of people struggled this week. It's not just Illinois. And notice what I just said. It's not just Illinois, despite us winning 38-0. That's what I'm hoping, at least in this post-game show, that I'm kind of able to put into perspective for you guys. We have it pretty good. Caitlin says it was nice to see Fagan have a good game. Joe says what a lot of people were saying. I heard louder churches. Was it really not that rowdy at Geese Memorial Stadium? I got to get used to saying that. A lot of people said that. I guess, I didn't have the TV on too loud because I like to focus on the actual numbers and not get too influenced by what the guys are saying, but we'll see. Mike says Western Michigan seems like they ran out of gas after the first half. I don't think so. Mike, I think we just game planned the heck out of it. Again, just like Duke. You can't, maybe like you're talking about late in the fourth quarter, fine, sure. But you don't run out of gas at halftime. You literally have 20 minutes to recharge. I think it's simply Illinois wears these teams down. And one of the advantages that we have over essentially every other team in the country, it's certainly not talent on the field. It's not athletes. It's not speed. I think against 95% of college football teams, Illinois will always have the advantage when it comes to coaching. And I know some of you don't agree with that either. There was a lot of Aaron Henry slander in the Discord. I get what you're saying, but Aaron Henry's defense gave up 0 points today. Let's give credit where credit is due. Fox says Michigan State only beat these guys 23-6. We shut them out 38-0. Absolutely. Let me see what else we got here real quick. Mike says, how is Xavier and the right tackle? I forgot to put it. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'll watch the Brett Bielema press conference after I go off here, and then hopefully I'll have some more stats for you. Brad says something a lot of people are feeling. Bart Miller needs to be fired tonight. He's holding this team back. I have no words. I don't know. I'm a Cubs fan, and I was texting back and forth with Sam Olber on Locked On Cubs. Our offensive line is like the Chicago Cubs after the All-Star break, where the offense just dies. Like our offensive line, for some reason, for the first half every season, just they act like they don't know each other. They've never played before, which is clearly not the case for this team. We've got everyone coming back. This is one of the most experienced offensive lines in the country, and yet they are struggling. And again, they can't play the way that they've been playing against Indiana next week, or the following week when we play USC or the Ohio States. Even Purdue put up a match against USC today. I know that because I had Purdue plus 21.5. Fox River says Illinois scored 6 out of their 6 red zone drives. I love that. All right, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up. We're almost at 30 minutes. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. I plan on continuing some of the coverage here at the Talk Illini channel. So do an @Talk Illini. Make sure you find me there. Until next time, guys, feel good about this win. Don't feel nervous. It's a Saturday night. We watched a lot of football today. This Illinois football team is a very, very good one. And, it absolutely still now has the ability to win 9 games, to 10 games, maybe even 11 games. I would put up the Illinois resume against any other team in the country. South Florida is getting plastered, at least by the time I went live here in their game against Miami. I think South Florida's performance was obviously beating 2 ranked teams. You put that up there. But right now, Illinois, I'd put up our resume against anybody, including Indiana. But I'm going to have so much more content for you. Obviously, make sure you hit the like button on this video. Illinois 3-0, non-conference. Hoosiers, you're next. ILL. Love you guys.